The fight against insurgency began, Nigeria has looked up to one of its most faithful partners, the United States. While we may have had the impression relations between us may have begun heading south since last year, Ambassador James Entwistle tries to dissuade the notion.
I think the fundamentals of our relationship are very strong. We have a broad partnership in many different areas: health, education, investment, cultural ties, security, the military relationship. I've been in this business for 34 years. I've never been involved in a relationship that was this broad and this deep. I think we're in good shape.
Would you say that's still the case, that the United States is still Nigeria's closest ally, considering how well we fared last year?
I think Nigeria is our most important bilateral partner in Africa. I think that's clear. We work very closely with Nigeria on a number of important things. Right now, as you know, Nigeria is on the UN Security Council, so we're working very closely with them there. Nigeria has just gone on to the UN Human Rights Council for 3 years. We look forward to working with them closely there. The U.S. and Nigeria are partners in a number of key areas. I think we're in good shape.
Does the U.S. still support Nigeria's war on terror?
Let me state very clearly, as the U.S. ambassador, as President Obama's personal representative to Nigeria, no partner is doing more to support Nigeria's war on terror than the United States. In late 2013, when I had the privilege of presenting my credentials to President Jonathan, and we sat down and talked afterwards, the first thing I said to him was, "Mr. President, let me be clear. The United States supports your war on terror and will do everything we can to help in every appropriate way." That's as true today as it was back then.
And would you say that the U.S. refusing to sell weapons to Nigeria last year still signifies that you're still supporting us in our fight against
We have a number of things on the table right now. A number of military equipment ideas that we're under discussion that might happen. We continue to share crucial information on a daily basis. The one refusal on the helicopters is water under the bridge. We have exciting possibilities now and in the future. I'm quite optimistic. And again, nobody's doing more to help in this crucial area than we are. Sometimes we can't talk in the newspapers and on the media about the details of everything we're doing. Perhaps that leads to the perception of that we're not doing anything. Absolutely not true. We're with Nigeria every step of the way as you fight Boko Haram.
Wasn't it disappointing for the United States that Nigeria asked you to stop the military training for a battalion of the Nigerian army?
Let's be clear about what happened there. At the request of your government, of your army, we brought in some of the best military trainers in the world. The idea was to build up the 143rd Battalion into a world-class battalion. The deal that we worked out with the Army ahead of time is we provide the trainers, Nigeria provides some of the equipment that we need to do the training, and it will be a partnership. As I always say, the United States is not here to do anything for Nigeria. We're here to do things with Nigeria as partners. This was a classic example. Sadly, we got to the point where our trainers couldn't train anymore because the equipment wasn't there. When we asked the Nigerians, we need the equipment to continue, they decided to just end the training. And again, I don't want to go into all the details of this past event, but it was regrettable. But if in the future there are more requests for training, we'll take a very serious look at them. We think military training is one of the things that we do very well.
And is the U.S. still helping with the search for the Chibok schoolgirls?
Yes.
How?
Well, as I mentioned, we're sharing information on a daily basis. I can't go into the details of that, but we're with you every step of the way.
But we have heard that the United States has said that they will not share information because they feel that all this information is getting into the wrong hands.
I don't know where you get that. We share every day. I've seen what we share. I've been involved in the conversations with your government, discussing what we share. It's happening almost every day. So take it from me. I'm the guy.
Okay. Well, last year, January, this time last year, Nigeria promulgated the anti-gay law. The United States has been quite vocal about how it feels about countries that pass these laws.
Right.
Is the U.S. still averse to Nigeria's anti-gay law?
As I said at the time, and I've continued to say since then, the issue of same-sex marriage is controversial all over the world, including in my country. I think now it's legal in 30-some U.S. states out of the 50, but it's not yet the law of the land. Maybe it will be at some point. But the definition of a legal marriage in Nigeria is up to Nigerians. Our concern about this bill was, if you read it, It puts significant restrictions on the freedoms of speech, the freedoms of assembly. These are hard-fought freedoms. They were hard-won in a democracy like Nigeria. So our concern as a friend and partner is when you begin to limit these freedoms for certain people in certain cases, does that create a slippery slope where it might, over time, include others? We think that's a very dangerous precedent. And as President Obama himself has said, we feel that gay rights are human rights. In other words, everyone deserves to be treated the same, to be protected by the same human rights, regardless of who they are, how they choose to live their lives. That's where we're coming from when we speak as a friend and partner on this subject.
Well, it's easy to interpret the U.S. not buying Nigeria's oil as seemingly tense relations, as a result of tense relations between the two. Why is the United States not buying oil anymore from Nigeria?
Well, I think that's an erroneous perception, and I wouldn't agree that our relations are tense. We are buying less oil from the entire world because we are producing more domestically. The fact that we're buying less from Nigeria is entirely determined by market forces. There's been no conscious decision that we will buy less from Nigeria. Market factors determine this. As you know, our domestic production from shale oil and so on is up dramatically. So our situation in terms of oil has changed dramatically over the past few years. So yes, imports from around the world are down.
So will you say the falling global oil prices is benefiting the United States in some way?
Oh, well, I'm not much of an economist, but I think it probably depends on whether you're buying gas at the pump or whether you're an oil producer. It benefits you if you're filling up your gas tank. If you have an oil rig in the U.S., maybe it doesn't help you so much. But you'd better ask someone who's a smarter economist than I am.
Well, general elections come up in a few weeks.
Yes.
What are the expectations of the United States?
I think it's an incredibly exciting time for Nigeria. One of the many things our two countries have in common, we are both big, boisterous, loud democracies. That's a wonderful thing. So I think this campaign is going to be very interesting. It already is. And I think this is a democratic exercise for Nigeria that will help Nigeria take the next step in its democratic journey. Now, obviously a lot needs to be done between now and February 14th. INEC is seized with this in terms of distribution of PVCs and all of these things. But what I'm trying to focus on as the U.S. ambassador, in addition to support to INEC and civil society and so on, is the importance of nonviolence, that in a democratic process there is no room for violence. I've been talking about that in public. I've been very happy to see the Nigerian media, civil society, Nigerian entertainers like Two-Face with his Vote Not Fight campaign have taken up this idea as well. I meet a lot of politicians, a lot of candidates. Every time I ask them to take the nonviolence pledge, that they won't condone it, foment it before, during, or after the elections. And I'm talking about both parties here. I get a very interesting response most of the time, something along the lines of, well, I would never start violence, but if the other guy starts it, or if I'm not happy with the results, well, maybe I'll have no choice. And I always answer them and I say, excuse me, but that is not a no violence pledge. A no violence pledge means you won't do it in any circumstances, and if you see it starting, you'll do everything you can to stop it. But I think individual Nigerian voters have to take this up as well. When that guy comes by to campaign and wants your vote, make clear what your expectations are. And if this guy is someone who condones violence, he doesn't get your vote. I think we have to, Nigerians, I think a growing sense of public accountability, that if violence takes place and everyone knows who's behind it, they will be held accountable in the court of public opinion. So I see that as something that the United States as a fellow democracy can support. We've all been quite vocal on that, and we will continue to do so. But we hope you guys in the media will do your part as well.
We'll do our parts. The president has preached issue-based political campaigns. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that being played out in some of the rallies you've seen between the People's Democratic Party and the APC, even though there are other political parties in Nigeria, but these are the two main ones in our faces? Mm-hmm.
It seems the issue that people are focusing on in campaigns and so on are economic management, security, the power sector, all of the things that are needed for Nigeria to march forward towards its bright future. And it seems to me that those are exactly the kinds of things that the candidates should be talking about.
But you hear them talking about that?
I do.
When you compare that to campaigns in the United States, the way it's done, do you think it's almost similar?
Gosh, what a question. I think campaigns in the United States, we talk about the issues. Sometimes we get into personality-based issues and that kind of thing, which personally I've always felt is kind of regrettable. But yeah, I think you have to talk about the issues, because in a democracy, one of the key elements is that government officials, elected officials, they work for the people. They're responsible to the people. And that's what's so valuable about a campaign, is it's a chance for the people to hear about and ask questions about the issues that really affect their lives. That's the way this should work.
My last question has to do with the Palestinian resolution that was presented to the UN Security Council about 2 weeks ago. We understand the United States impressed upon Nigeria to abstain from that vote. Why?
Let's be clear here. As I mentioned, the United States and Nigeria are both on the Security Council right now. We work very closely with your government and with your mission in New York on all votes before the Security Council. We have frank discussions before all of the votes. We present our opinions, hoping that Nigeria will support us. Nigeria presents their positions on the vote, hoping we will support them. It's a very constructive relationship. In this case, without going into all of, as we say, all of the inside baseball, we discussed our position, explained why we were going to vote no, and in the end, Nigeria decided to abstain for its own reasons, and we fully respect that. We had an open discussion. We talked about, I was involved in this. This is our position. This is what we've decided to do. We wanted to explain it to you as a friend and partner, and Nigeria explained their position to us, and each of us ended up where we ended up. That's exactly how things are supposed to work.
Now it's time to tell us what you think. Are you confident of tighter relations between Nigeria and the United States this year? And how do you think communities can avoid religious crisis before it hits? Talk to us using the addresses on your screen. And while you're at it, please say a prayer for our men in uniform working hard to protect the integrity and sovereignty of Nigeria. Also, pray for families who have been at the mercy of the insurgents. I am Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.